Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We are just 3 weeks away from the conclusion of the 2024 NFL regular season, and a lot of the 14 playoff spots are starting to be clinched. There are still some up in the air, and these last 3 weeks are going to go a long way to deciding those. And in both conferences, there's a lot of seeding implications on the line for the teams that have already clinched. The number one seed in both conferences, these last few games are going to go a long way to determining what seed each team gets. In the AFC, the number one seed, Kansas City still has it by multiple games, but they have a very tough stretch, and with Mahomes' recent high ankle sprain, this is certainly an interesting stretch to see how the Chiefs are going to do. And of course, in the NFC, there are three teams that are 12-2. The best record in the NFC is 12-2. There are three teams tied with that, and two of them are in the same division. So a lot's going to happen these last few weeks. But before I dive into my picks for this week, a quick recap of last week. Week 14 was not a good week for yours truly, but a good bounce back last week, going 13-3 overall. There are two games that I would consider major misses. One was I thought the Panthers would beat the Cowboys. Weirdly enough, the Cowboys are a pretty good road team this year. 5-2 away from AT&T Stadium. They crushed the Panthers. I also thought the Seahawks could hang with Green Bay. No, they could not. The last, technically wrong prediction I had was that the Lions beat the Bills. I knew it would be high scoring. I knew both quarterbacks would play really well. I was just on the wrong side of it. I'm not that surprised that the Bills won the game. But Tampa Bay beating the Chargers, my upset of the week, was a bullseye. I was pretty close to I was a 2-point conversion from getting my Commanders Saints pick incorrect, but the Saints were unsuccessful with their 2-point conversion. So that pick goes as correct. 13-3 week, and I hope to continue that momentum into this week. Now, before I begin, I remind you to leave a like if you enjoy the video and to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And if you want to be notified of future content, please click the bell icon. You can choose personalized or all notifications, whatever floats your boat. Let's begin. We begin with Thursday night, and I like an underdog to start. And my upset of the week record this year is pretty bad. I'm going to go with this as my upset of the week. I like the Denver Broncos to upset the Chargers. Since J.K. Dobbins got hurt for the Chargers in Week 12, they have not gotten to 20 one time. They did not get to the end zone once against the Falcons, who are absolutely terrible right now. They could not get to 20 against the Chiefs. They could not get to 20 against Tampa last week, and in fact got destroyed by Tampa last week. These two teams are divisional rivals. They met back in Week 6. The Chargers won that game. I believe these teams are more evenly matched than the previous meeting would indicate. The first meeting in Denver, the Chargers won that game pretty handily, but they're still not going to have J.K. Dobbins here. I think the Broncos are well coached, and I think the Broncos even the season series at 1-1. We got a couple games on Saturday this week. In the first one, I feel like I'm going to look like an idiot for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I like the Texans to upset the Kansas City Chiefs. So the big storyline coming out of this week for the Kansas City Chiefs is the injury to Patrick Mahomes. It's a high ankle sprain. Now, he's going to play this week. He recorded a full practice yesterday. I'm recording this video Wednesday. Recorded a full practice yesterday. Recorded a full practice today. He had this same injury 2 years ago in the playoffs. That was in 2022. The year he had the high ankle sprain against Jacksonville, beat Cincinnati in the AFC title game, put 38 points on the Eagles in the Super Bowl. However, I do not think the Chiefs' offensive line, at least not when protecting the quarterback when he drops back to pass, I don't think it's nearly as good as it was back then. Back then, they had Orlando Brown Jr., who played very well for them. DJ Humphries is going to be coming back this week, but it's going to be his first game back from a a hamstring injury, and those can be difficult. I'm not sure how effective he's going to be. And the Texans' defense, for all of their problems, they rush the passer very well. And then the Texans' offense, even though their offensive line is very bad, the Chiefs' defensive line at rushing the passer has been underwhelming this year. And the Texans, I believe, have the wide receivers, Nico Collins and Tank Dell, to take advantage of some of the deficiencies in the Chiefs secondary. I think that this is a spot where Houston can potentially assert themselves as a real contender. And I think they're going to do that. I think the Texans are going to win this game by a score 21-20. This next one, I almost made my upset of the week. The Ravens are 6-point favorites at home against the Steelers. TJ Watt did get hurt last week against the Eagles, but it looks like he's going to play as he returned to practice on Wednesday. Until Lamar beats the Steelers or plays a good game against the Steelers, I'm going to pick the Steelers every time they play the Ravens, and I'm going to pick them to win this game 17-16. This is really mainly about Lamar never playing well against the Steelers. I think he's like 1-5 against them as a starting quarterback. He's never beaten a good Steelers team. I can't even name the quarterback who started for the Steelers the last time Lamar beat them. The Steelers lost last week. They're going to be looking to bounce back this week. This is a really big game for who wins the AFC North. I think the Steelers bounce back this week. They win a typical Ravens-Steelers style low-scoring game. I think it's going to be similar to the game when these two teams met a month and a half ago on November 17th. I like Pittsburgh 17-16. I don't think Lamar is going to play well, or he's not going to play well enough for the Ravens to win this game. I think the Steelers lock up the AFC North this week. The Los Angeles Rams are a field goal favorite at MetLife. I know the West Coast to East Coast flight can be difficult. However, the Rams also have extra time to prepare because they played Thursday night against the 49ers, and they have a far and away a better coaching staff than the Jets. I think that the Rams are going to cover the 3. I'm going to go 20-14. The Rams have been a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team, but they've won 3 straight. Their defensive line has been one of the best in the NFL this year at getting pressure. The Jets have a mediocre offensive line and an old quarterback who can't move, so I like that matchup. And the Rams have a pretty high-powered offense. I know they only scored 12 points last week. It was raining. Matthew Stafford has struggled in his career against the 49ers, but the Jets' defense has not been good this year. They just gave up 25 points against a Mac Jones-led Jaguars team. I think Matthew Stafford's going to be able to throw the ball on them, and I like the Rams to win this game. This is another divisional game. Cincinnati and Cleveland, kind of a toilet bowl because neither of these teams are going to be in the playoffs. But the Bengals are 7.5-point favorites at home. I think that's too much. I think the Browns cover. I know the Browns couldn't do anything against the Chiefs last week. They just benched Jameis Winston. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson's going to be starting this week. But literally anybody can move the ball on the Bengals. I mean, anyone can. The Titans did last week. Cooper Rush moved the ball on them a little bit. The Steelers put 44 points on them. I think the Browns are going to be able to move the ball on them. Obviously, I like the Bengals to win this game. Even though I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, they need this game. The Browns kind of need to lose this game for draft position, but the Bengals can't seem to play well on both sides of the ball in any given game. Like, think back to that Giants game. In a game where their defense played well, their offense did not. Or think to either of the Ravens games. In games where their offense was almost perfect, their defense was terrible. So this feels like a one-score game, a divisional game. Cincinnati's better. They need to win. Cleveland needs to lose. But it's not going to be a blowout. This is another divisional game. Similar rationale to that one. Colts in Tennessee. The Colts kind of need to win this game to stay alive for the playoffs. And the Titans kind of need to lose this game for their draft position. Anthony Richardson's a bust. I mean, So many quarterbacks look way better with Shane Steichen, but Anthony Richardson is completing like 40% of his passes. I don't know who the Titans starting quarterback is going to be in this game, but you're going to have two bad quarterbacks on both sides, so that tells me it's going to be pretty low scoring. I do think the Colts have a better coaching staff. They're at home, so I'll go with Indy 21-17. Even though the NFC East is the winner's pretty much decided at this point because Philadelphia is 3 games ahead, they can officially clinch the division with a win this week. Philadelphia Eagles visit the Washington Commanders. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites on the road. I think they cover that and win by 10. Washington, although a good story, I do not believe is a legitimate contender. The Cliff Kingsbury is super hard to trust as an offensive coordinator. They did have a blowout win against Will Levis and the Titans. They did not look impressive in the least last week against the New Orleans Saints. As I said earlier, that game came down to a 2-point conversion, a failed 2-point conversion by the Saints at the end of the game. The Commanders have not been able to beat good teams all year. I'm trying to think, what was their best win? They played this Eagles team on Thursday night, and the Eagles, I thought the Eagles played terribly in that game and still beat the Commanders handily. So I like Philly by 10. They cover the 3.5. 24-14. I think Jaden Daniels really struggles against this Eagles defense. Next, the Detroit Lions visit the Chicago Bears. These two teams met 3 weeks ago on Thanksgiving Day, and that was the game that got Matt Eberflus fired, where the Bears were in field goal range, got knocked out of field goal range due to I think it was a penalty and a sack, and then whatever Matt Eberflus did with the clock at the end with timeouts. That was the nail in the coffin for Eberflus. So I know a lot of people are panicking about the Lions because of all their defensive injuries, and while that might cause them to not be able to win the NFC, this week I do not believe it's going to affect them. I know that the Lions defense has given up a lot of points the last couple of weeks, but they played two really good teams, two really good offenses in a dome, so I think that's I'm not that surprised that happened given their defensive injuries. But this week, they're on the road against the Chicago Bears team. At this point, I know they have talent, but they're dead. Since they fired Eberflus, I thought that would help them. No, it has not. The San Francisco 49ers, I believe at this point, are a dead team walking. They've looked like that in 3 of the 49ers. Have looked like that in 4 of the last 5 games they've played. The one time the 49ers showed any signs of life was like a 38-6 win against this Bears team. And last week, the Minnesota Vikings, they played a C game on offense and still easily crushed them, 30-12. So the Lions are coming off a loss. They need this game to maintain the lead in the NFC North and the 1 seed. I think they're going to do that. I think they crush the Bears 30-13, cover the 6.5-point spread easily. Following that, the New York Giants, who are tied for the worst record in the NFL and currently battling for the number 1 pick so they can draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or whomever they choose, visits the Atlanta Falcons, 7-7, half game out of first place in the NFC South. So the Falcons kind of need to win this game, and the Giants kind of need to lose it. Big story in Atlanta this week is the benching of Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix Jr., 8th overall pick this past year, will be starting in this game. So the Falcons, the last, 5 weeks? Yeah, the last 5 weeks. The Atlanta Falcons have looked absolutely terrible. Their one win was a 1-score win against the 2-12 Las Vegas Raiders. But the biggest problem with that team, other than the fact that they haven't been able to rush the passer, which, I think that's the primary reason why they're going to miss the playoffs, has been the quarterback. Kirk Cousins' last 5 games, 1 touchdown pass, 9 interceptions. Those numbers speak for themselves. Kirk Cousins has been unspeakably, unplayably bad. So the question is, how good's Michael Penix going to be in his first career start? The truth is, I don't, even though I don't think Penix is going to be great, or maybe not even that good, maybe just show some flashes, I can't imagine he's going to be as bad as Kirk Cousins has been. and I think this Falcons team is going to have a bit of a bump from a new starting quarterback. They're going to be playing with a little more energy than they have been the past few weeks. The point spread for this game was originally Falcons by 10, and I loved the Giants to cover before the announcement of Kirk Cousins benching was made. But now that Penix is starting, I actually think the Falcons cover the spread. It's come down to 8.5. I like the Falcons to blow out the Giants, 27-10. And you'll notice that I didn't really talk about the Giants at all. Other than that, they're going for the number one pick. They're just a hilariously bad team, a hilariously awful, obviously tanking team. So I think a 27-10 Falcons win is in the best interest for both teams. To conclude the 1 o'clock window, the Arizona Cardinals, 7-7, a game and a half out of first place in the NFC West, visit the Carolina Panthers. I think they have 3 wins, 3-11. Or no, 3-11. Yeah, 3-11. 3-11. The record's 3-11 because they played 14 games. The Carolina Panthers at 3-11. So, since Bryce Young's come back from his benching, he has played well. He had a stretch against really good teams where he played pretty well, and then he played last week against the Cowboys. I thought they'd win that game, and they got blown out at home. I'm not going to overreact to that. I think that Bryce is going to be able to play well this week against the Cardinals defense that, even though I think they're schemed really well, they lack. I don't think they have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. I think the Cardinals are favored by about 4.5 points. I think that's perfectly priced. I think a 31-26 Cardinals win is in the cards. No pun intended. Well, actually, kind of yes, pun intended. Mostly because I don't think the Panthers run defense is awful, and I think the Cardinals are going to be able to. I think James Conner should have a huge day running the ball against the Panthers defense. So yeah, I like Arizona 31-26 over the Panthers. The Cardinals need to win this game. The Panthers kind of need to lose this game for draft position. So yeah. At 4:05 Eastern Time, 2 NFC teams currently in I think they're both in the NFC playoff picture right now. Or actually, Seattle might be like a game out. Minnesota Vikings 12-2. About a field goal favorite on the road against the Seattle Seahawks, who are 8-6. The Seahawks got bullied on last Sunday night against the Packers at home, 30-13, and the Vikings are on a 7-game win streak after back-to-back losses against the Lions and the Rams. Sam Darnold's played really well. Listen, if I would think if the Vikings didn't have Justin Jefferson. And all of those great offensive players, I do think Sam Darnold would be a legitimate MVP candidate. Obviously, he's not going to win it because he's not the best player on his own side of the ball. But as well as he's played, I do worry a bit about a potential letdown for him specifically this week. He has had a couple of bad games this year. I think back to the Jaguars game. Seattle's a hostile environment. And I think the crowd noise could potentially provide real issues for him. And for a Vikings offense overall, that seems to struggle a lot with pre-snap penalties. Now, on the Seattle side of things, as I said, they got embarrassed last week against Green Bay. I believe they're better than they looked against Green Bay. Geno Smith got hurt, but I think he's going to play this week. I think they're still well coached by Mike McDonald. I like Seattle with an upset win here over the Vikings. They need this game to stick with the Rams for a chance to win the NFC West. The Rams will have played earlier, and they will have beaten the Jets, so that puts a little more pressure on Seattle to win this game. I think Seattle pulls off an upset. I'm going to go Seattle 19, Minnesota 17. CBS's national 425 doubleheader game this week is San Francisco at Miami. Both of these teams are 6-8. Both of them pretty much, if they win this game, even though slim, their playoff hopes are still alive. And if they lose, they're done, essentially. I don't think either of these teams are going to be in the playoffs. I don't think either of these teams are good. And I think this game is going to be pretty low scoring and sloppy. Obviously, the coaching matchup here is Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, my apologies. And Mike McDaniel was the offensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan. So Kyle Shanahan is going to know Mike McDaniel's tendencies, but this game is in Miami. I feel like the crowd's going to be mostly 49ers fans. There's a lot of stuff to both sides. I think the strength of the Dolphins in this matchup is their defense. The 49ers offense is without Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and a lot of their skill position players. And I think Brock Purdy, without those guys, is an average NFL quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa was awful in the loss to the Houston Texans last week. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last week. This week, I don't think he's going to be great either. So I'm going to give edge Miami. They're a 1-point favorite here. I think that's about right. I think Miami wins this game 17-16. For the moment, keeps their playoff hopes alive and pretty much ends San Francisco. This next one, divisional game, Patriots and Bills. The Patriots are a 2-touchdown underdog on the road. I think they cover that. I'll say Buffalo 28, New England 20. It's a divisional game. Buffalo is coming off the big win at Detroit where they put up 48 points. I think they're probably going to take their foot off the gas at least a little bit, even though I don't necessarily think they're going to come out flat here. Drake May has played pretty well, has been playing pretty well this year. Buffalo's defense looks a little bit vulnerable, so Drake May might be able to make some throws against them. As I said, it's a divisional game. New England gave Buffalo some trouble last year. I obviously don't think New England can win this game outright, but I do think they can cover the 2 touchdowns. So give me Buffalo 28, New England 20. This next game is a huge one for the number 1 pick in the draft. Jacksonville and Las Vegas. Both of these teams are absolutely terrible. Both of these teams, it would be in their best interest to lose this game. So who do I think is going to? The quarterback matchup is Mac Jones and Desmond Ridder. I mean, that's terrible on terrible. So I know it's going to be low scoring. I guess since the Raiders at home, I'll pick them to win this game, even though it's really not in their best interest to win this game. I don't know, man. This could go either way. Raiders 20, Jaguars 18. On Sunday night, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit the Dallas Cowboys. This is an important game for both teams. The Cowboys, if they lose this game, even though I don't think they're making the playoffs anyway, they'd officially be eliminated. And the Buccaneers, they need to win this game to stay ahead of the Falcons in the NFC South. So I said earlier that the Cowboys have weirdly been a good road team this year. Well, I mean, they've just been a dreadful home team. Their 1 win at home this year was against the unspeakably terrible Giants. It seems like every home game this year follows a similar formula. They make tons of offensive errors, and their defense gets carved up, and they fall behind big early. And I think that's going to happen here. Since Mike Evans came back, the Buccaneers have not lost. Baker Mayfield was awesome last week against the Chargers. They're playing in a dome again, and I think Baker Mayfield is going to light the Cowboys on fire. The Buccaneers, I think, are 4-point favorites on the road in this game. I think they cover that easily. Buccaneers 37, Cowboys 23, and I don't think the game is as close as that score indicates. And finally, Monday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers host the New Orleans Saints. This one's pretty easy. Lock of the week, without question. Packers 34, Saints 7. The Saints just aren't good. They're a dome team coming up north to play in the cold. The Packers are coming off a blowout win in Seattle. Since Jordan Love got healthy coming out of the bye, they have 1 loss, and that was a loss in Detroit, 34-31 on a last-second field goal. I think they annihilate the Saints, and they stay on pace to potentially, even though they can't win the NFC North, to potentially be the 5 seed if the Vikings were to slip up a couple times, and they play the Vikings next week. I'm looking forward to that game. But yeah, I think the Packers crushed the Saints easily. And that'll be all for today. I remind you to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And if you want to be notified of future content, please click the bell icon. You can choose personalized or all notifications, whatever floats your boat. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you all again real soon.